What's up, all you dog-faced pony soldiers? It's John Smith with Punk Rock Politics here. And we're going to get right into what's going on today. It's a big day for primaries. And we have 352 delegates at stake in the Democratic primary, or the DNC primary. So I'm going to break it down for you what states are voting and how many delegates are up for grabs. We have Michigan today. That's a big one. It doesn't necessarily sway the whole race as the MSNBC and CNN are pushing so hard, and other news organizations. Excuse me, I have something in my. Let me make sure I do the air quotes here. Anyway, we have Michigan voting with 125 delegates up for grabs. We have Washington State with 89 delegates up for grabs. We have Missouri with 68 delegates up for grabs. Mississippi with 36 delegates up for grabs. Idaho has 20 delegates, and North Dakota has 14. These are when the polls close. Washington, we have 10 p.m. Michigan, 8 p.m., but 7 p.m. for counties in the central time zone. Missouri, 7 p.m., Mississippi, 7 p.m., Idaho, 10 p.m., and North Dakota, 7 p.m. Oh, I should say, I'm sorry. I apologize. These are all central times except for the counties in Michigan with a different time zone. So when I said 7 p.m., it's central time. It's not Eastern time. Anyway, so I got this information from just AL.com. And I'll post all the articles I review in the comments section at the bottom of this video. So yeah, let's get into this. If you didn't know, dog-faced pony soldier is something that Joe Biden said to somebody who asked him a question. He said he was a caucus, literally a caucus, which is like a primary. It's a way to vote for we call it at large the primaries, but some states have caucuses, like Iowa did, and other states as well. I believe Nevada was a caucus as well. He called himself a caucus. Then he said, after he said, I'm a caucus. Have you ever been to a caucus? Yeah, no, you haven't. You liar. You dog-faced pony soldier. Because he's nuts. So anyway, let's get into Joe Biden's record a little bit. I'm going to discuss his trade policy, which is a really big deal in Michigan. Bernie Sanders out-surprised the polls back in 2016 and won a huge win. He won by a lot in Michigan and crushed Hillary Clinton after it was said, just like they're saying now, that he was going to lose to Hillary Clinton. The same thing they're saying, especially on MSNBC and CNN, who apparently are propagandists for party elites, and there's no credibility there. Anyway, I just want to do this real quick. It kind of takes off of the topic, but I like to give credit to journalists, even if it's a simple article. So the article I read from before was Super Tuesday Part 2, Primaries, Which States Vote Today, How Many Delegates Are Up for Grabs, and it was written by Leada Gore, and that's spelled Leada. Just wanted to give credit where credit's due. So here's an article from Common Dreams, and this is really crucial. And please share this if you know anybody in Michigan, and in all the states participating in the primaries, because there's other states that all states were impacted by this, but Michigan was impacted very negatively by a lot of Joe Biden's policies. Will Biden's trade policy record come back to haunt him in Midwest? I helped lead the opposition to these agreements. Joe Biden supported those agreements, said Senator Sanders, and that is a fundamental difference about our approach toward the trade union movement and towards the needs of working people. By Andrea Germanos, staff writer, Friday, March 6, 2020. Senator Bernie Sanders and supporters of his presidential campaign took on 2020 Democratic primary foe, former Vice President Joe Biden's record on trade to sharpen the contrast between the two candidates ahead of next week's nominating contest in 6 states, including the Rust Belt state of Michigan. Just before leaving Phoenix to attend a rally in Michigan on Friday, Sanders held a brief press conference in which he said Biden's vote as a then senator for the 1994 North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, showed a fundamental difference between the two candidates. In terms of the coming general election, we don't have to predict what President Donald Trump will be saying about Joe Biden because he is already making those attacks. Trump, who won Michigan, who won Wisconsin, who won Pennsylvania, made one of his major campaign tenets his opposition to NAFTA and PNTR, Permanent Normal Trade Relations with China, said Sanders. In 2016, he criticized those trade policies as being disastrous, and just yesterday, he made that claim, Sanders continued. The truth is, and we have to be honest about this, that NAFTA and PNTR cost this country well over 4 million good-paying jobs. In Michigan alone, these disastrous trade agreements led to the loss of more than 150,000 good-paying jobs. And not only job loss, when good-paying jobs go, you are involved in a race to the bottom and employers can pay lower wages. Now this is serious, but I've been told I do an all right, Sanders. I haven't really been in practice, but these trade agreements have been a disaster for the people of Michigan, the state of Vermont, and for the entire country. Joe Biden and I are very strong and different positions in terms of how we reacted to NAFTA and PNTR, Sanders said. Back when the votes were taken, he continued, I can remember it was like yesterday. I was on a picket line in Montpelier, Vermont, with workers opposing these disastrous trade agreements. Joe Biden supported those agreements. And that is a fundamental difference about our approach toward the trade union movement and towards the needs of working people. Biden's vote for the deal has been easy fodder for Trump attacks. Joe Biden made a deal, NAFTA, the president said Thursday at an event in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He approved it. He was pushing it. It's the worst trade deal ever made. The worst. Bigly. All right, I'm not a really good Trump guy. I can't watch much of what he says. I read it. But I find it hard to listen to him for numerous reasons. According to Sanders' campaign manager Faiz Shakir, the president's comments are simply more evidence Sanders would be a better candidate to go up against Trump in the general election. And this is a tweet from Faiz Shakir, which is Sanders' campaign manager. Think hard about the campaign that can truly take it to Trump. As expected, Trump hits Biden on trade at the Fox Town Hall in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Joe Biden made a deal, NAFTA. He approved it. He was pushing it. It's the worst trade deal ever made. This is what that was a quote from Donald Trump. If there's a Sanders comeback, it involves persuading voters trade will sink Biden in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. The Sanders campaign appears to be making sure voters in communities harshly hit by so-called free trade deals won't forget Biden's record. The campaign rolled out this week 3 new television ads, including one focused on trade. That ad features union auto worker Sean Crawford, who speaks about how his community has been decimated by trade deals. Decimated. Only one candidate for president consistently opposed every disastrous trade deal, says Crawford, and that candidate is Bernie Sanders. In an article entitled Biden's NAFTA vote is a liability in the Rust Belt and published late, let me reread that. In an article entitled Biden's NAFTA vote is a liability in the Rust Belt and published last May at Bloomberg Business Week, Joshua Green wrote that the trade deal led to an exodus of U.S. manufacturing jobs to Mexico and hurt wages for U.S. workers who held on to their jobs. Throughout the 2016 presidential campaign, Trump pilloried NAFTA as a disaster and the worst trade deal ever, a message his top advisors believe was pivotal in helping him carry critical Rust Belt states once considered Democratic strongholds. NAFTA still resonates in the industrial Midwest and Rust Belt, says Stanley Greenberg, a veteran Democratic pollster who recently conducted focus groups on trade in Michigan and Wisconsin. There's still a lot of anger because it symbolizes for many people the indifference about the outsourcing of jobs and the favoring of elite economic interests in international trade agreements. The youth-led Sunrise Movement shared that article Friday morning with a tweet suggesting it provides evidence Sanders should get the Democratic ticket. There's another tweet by the Sunrise Movement. Who should debate Trump on trade? At Joe Biden kills jobs in Michigan and At Joe Biden killed jobs in Michigan and supercharged the climate crisis. Hashtag NAFTA. At Bernie Sanders will create millions of good jobs to stop the climate crisis and reverse the damage of bad trade deals. Hashtag Green New Deal Bloom. All right. In addition to Michigan, Idaho, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, and Washington will hold primaries Tuesday, which is today. All right. So that's an important article. Just going to comment real quick. Joe Biden and Obama were both bad on this. If you see some connection there, you like Biden because he was in Obama's administration. They broke like almost all of their campaign promises. but particularly NAFTA was bad for the environment. It was bad for workers. And when auto workers or when factory workers lose wages and lose jobs, it affects the entire economy. Both obviously more critically where, like, in places that had factories that closed down and were outsourced to other countries. But, it affects the entire U.S. economy. When because when people are allowed to unionize, which gives them more workers' rights and more power to demand, better wages, better health care, etc. This actually helps you even if you're not in a union and even if you're in the private sector. It's just basic economics. If there's more money in the economy, even if it's, let's say, if a union worker gets paid more or has a secure job, and they know they can invest and buy a home, put money in the bank, buy a new car, finance a new car, or a used one, doesn't matter. They buy better food or they go out and eat more. This is putting money, tips in servers and bartenders' pockets. This is buying more goods from the alcohol industry, from the food industry. This is putting more money in cab drivers' pockets in the form of both rides and tips that now people can afford. The better, the more workers' rights we have, the better wages the working class gets, the better we all do. Joe Biden is the actual liar, and he's a dog-faced pony soldier. And please go out and knock on doors if you live in any of these states. Anybody in any state can make calls or send text messages for Bernie Sanders. In fact, I did from noon till 1 o'clock today, and I'm going to be doing so at least another hour or two throughout the day, in between making videos and doing other stuff I have to do. So there's only one person who stands up for the American worker and has been for a long time. Joe Biden has a record of wanting to cut Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and other, and all social welfare programs, despite what he says or MSNBC or CNN are saying, which are just flat out lies. His record is abominable, and Trump is not some aberration. And listen, Joe Biden told you right to your face, nothing will fundamentally change. Well, let me ask you something, America. Do you want nothing to fundamentally change? Or do you need real change? Do you need health care? Do you need a better job? Do you need job security? Do you need time off when you have a baby? Do you need to be able to afford to have a baby? If you have a baby and can't afford it, or maybe on medication that wouldn't be good for the baby, or had a baby with the wrong person, or God forbid were raped or something else, do you want your president to be somebody who would not allow federal funding for abortions because of his religious beliefs, which is Joe Biden, who supported the Hyde Amendment up until he started running this campaign. Then he took it back because it wasn't popular. Do you want a politician that changes his views just because it's not popular? Because Bernie Sanders supports views that are not yet known or popular, such as that everybody should vote, regardless of whether they're in jail or not. That's a fundamental right of democracy. Once you take away the vote from one person, you can take it away from everybody. And that's the slippery slope we've been on for a long time. And it wasn't popular when he first started saying it last year, but it's getting more popular. And he fights for what's right and what he knows is right and what the American people need and what would give them a better deal. He's fighting for economic inequality, and quite frankly, he's the only person with a Green New Deal that's sufficient to tackle the climate crisis and reverse all the damage we've caused and allowed to happen, particularly large corporations. So get out there and vote. Sign. You can go to berniesanders.com/call to make the calls. I'm sure it's probably, not definitely, that's correct. I know you can do that. You can sign up. You watch a short video. It's very easy. Just sign up. When you sign up, you don't have to. You could start later. I did. I didn't realize I had to watch a 10-minute video, so I didn't start watching the video until like 11:54. So I started making calls afternoon, like after, not in the afternoon, technically yes, but after 12 o'clock p.m. But just make some calls. Sign up for as much as you can. Share this on social media. Call out Joe Biden's record. Get out there and vote. Encourage people in these states that are voting to get out and vote. Encourage people to take to the streets. Encourage people to stand up and vote for one of the few politicians in U.S. history who really has their best interests at heart. and has a proven record of doing so, where Joe Biden has the exact opposite. The next few videos, we're going to get into how he wants to cut Social Security and all these other things, but I want to make some shorter videos, and I'm going to put out a bunch of videos today. Please like the video, comment, share it. Check me out on patreon.com. Consider becoming a patron. I'm working through a few kinks since the channel is a week old. I'm going to be getting out extra special content just for my Patreon viewers and and subscribers, and I'm going to cut down the cost of the initial membership, I believe, to as long as it's not an issue, to $2.70, which is what Bernie Sanders asked for, and his average donation for a long time in the 2016 campaign was $27. So even though they recommend $3, I'm going to make it even less. We need to disseminate this information. We need to get it out there. There is a typo in my first goal, and I can't figure out how to fix it. I think it says it says growing like twice instead of saying this is going to be a growing progressive channel or something like that. Or independent, whatever I said. I made a typo and I can't fix it. So I'm not incompetent. I just for some reason I can't edit that part. So still, please donate so I can get to that $1,000 first goal. Thank you very much, and stay tuned. There's so much news, and it's beyond the campaign, and I'm going to keep pumping it out all day.